everyone, welcome to BullCaster, a talk show for all crypto bulls. Here we are to discuss the most exciting industry topics with the best industry experts, influencers, and remarkable personalities. I'm Constantin Kogan, co-founder of BullPerks, and we're excited to welcome a special guest today. Meet Leah Liu. He is a director of the platform at Struck Crypto. He leads the value-add services for crypto fund, partner with founders and go-to-market strategy, marketing, community PR, the operations. Leo has significant experience in strategy and operations from his time at Cross River, where he worked as chief of staff for the crypto team, and as a fractional COO for early stage startups, where he advised founders across HR, finance, and operations. He started his career at BNY Mellon and on the corporate venture team, and we're really excited to have him here today. Hi, Leo.
Hey, Constantine, really happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. And we're, as I told you, and when we were preparing, like, we're go straight to the point. It's very efficient podcast. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey into VC and into how do you get into crypto?
So I'll start from the beginning. In 2018, I began going to different events in New York City, so going to different crypto events. I then just really liked this community called Crypto NYC and then began helping them out. This is while I was working my day job at BNY Mellon before I was in the corporate venture team. And so basically, I did an internal transition and joined the corporate venture team at BNY. So that was the team that was looking at fintech, and crypto was one of the verticals there. So that's really when I started looking at crypto professionally. I then left to join Cross River. Cross River is a banking as a service fintech company and community bank where they had a newly formed crypto team. So I was hired to be the chief of staff for that team, and then spent around 1 year there. I think part of it was also just me sharing my story about the chief of staff role. And that's when I was discovered. And the opportunity to join Struck Crypto came to me. And so, you know, I had some experience in VC on the fintech side of things at BNY, doing minority principal investments. And this was the time to just use my experience around strategy and operations on the VC side of things again. And so took that opportunity. And, over 6 months later, this is where I am today.
So the rest is history. Now you have you took a crypto pill. So it's to kick off our conversation, right? So you've seen the both worlds, right? You've seen a traditional finance world, and now you're in the crypto world. So maybe it's curious to hear your opinion on, and to have like the set the tone of this conversation. Like, what are the main differences between the traditional platforms, and you can talk about traditional fintech or VC platforms, focusing on traditional assets and cryptocurrencies? What sets them apart in your opinion? Top three, differentiators.
Yeah. Um, I think the first way I'll take this question is actually defining platform. So platform, this is a term that's used within the VC community, and it can mean something similar to post-investment. So this is helping out the existing portfolio companies because VC firms, their role is to ultimately generate returns for investors through investing in different startups. And so the first part is around finding investments. That's what the investment or deal team does. They'll do the diligence and everything to write that check for the company. The question is what happens afterwards. So that's where portfolio support, marketing, PR for the portfolio companies comes into play. And so that's what platform is in my perspective. In terms of TradFi versus crypto, so I would say that in general, platform is actually something that is becoming more important across the board. So I used to work at BNY Mellon. The team that I was on, they actually now have a head of platform. So they realized that there's a lot of power in working together with your current portfolio companies. There's a lot of synergies that can be done, a lot of different partnerships and such. So that's the similarity. I think in terms of crypto, the difference is that it's just a different culture, different needs for the companies as well. By that, I mean one part even is just vendors. So let's say between the Web2 technology stack and Web3 technology stack, even every company needs a payroll provider. They need a bank. They need cloud hosting and such. So both Web2 and Web3. But for Web3, there's an increased emphasis in terms of something like security. So code auditors, custodians, crypto custodians, let's say even market makers for tokens. And so because there's all these different dynamics, let's say infrastructure needed to support them across the board, whether it be around vendors, which I mentioned, and experts, people who are familiar with things like tokenomics, let's say. Those are different things.
Yeah, it's interesting because, there's a lot of moving parts in this entire ecosystem, right? And we have people who are speculators who are like piggybacking on the high volatility, which can be very lucrative, but also can be very risky. And we have on the other side, like partners, as you mentioned, like custodians, market makers, exchanges, all other like participants of this game, so to speak, right, as we call crypto. Now, from the platform perspective, right, and you gave a very interesting definition to it, how do you assess and manage these risks, right, when you evaluate like potential blockchain projects for investments?
I would say that one of the biggest things is around the coachability of founders. And I won't take credit for this. This is something that Adam Struck, our managing partner, he says, and he has said in past interviews before. This is something that I looked at while researching the firm. But let me tell you how it actually matters in practice. So my role is in working hand to hand with a few select portfolio companies. These are the most recent investments. And so it's really crucial to build that relationship with the founder to understand what's really going on, understanding their perspective, and then also us sharing our perspective with them. Um, in terms of value add, one thing that VCs on the platform side and deal side in general, they're serving as an advisor. So they're sharing what they've learned from the patterns they've been seeing and providing that perspective to the founder. Sometimes the founder is a first-time founder, so maybe they haven't seen certain things. And so that's why we're able to provide that knowledge. And so ultimately it's up to them to decide because it's their company. But we find that founders who are able to take that feedback and incorporate it to be able to really be successful in what they're doing.
Now, I will ask you more like a more tricky question, more provocative question, right? So you mentioned flexible founder. Can you define a flexible founder, and can you provide an example of one, without obviously naming the company, right? But one founder that you consider flexible? What are the traits? What are the practical aspects that you found? And one that was not flexible, and what were the outcomes?
Yeah, that sounds great. So I think one characteristic of someone who is coachable and flexible is the vulnerability and the transparency. And obviously that really takes relationship building to do. Um, VCs who are too standoffish and really just asking about KPIs without building that personal relationship, that's not going to get there. It's really about, it's not just about business. It's also talking about just what the founder is going through and such, and really being an ally rather than being someone who's only just there to push them. So that's just setting the stage. In terms of examples, so I think that's basically it. One of the founders who's been really, really great in this, he shares everything, sharing what's going well, but also what's not going well, because that's really the area where the conversation can then become more productive. It's really talking about what's uncomfortable. So having those difficult challenges. And then so basically on the flip side, it's when there is that lack of transparency, the conversations really aren't as productive because, if there's no need to if there's nothing that they need help on, then we're here to help. And so it's basically, please leverage us as much as possible.
Yeah, so radical transparency, essentially what you're saying, is the most important part, right? Now, it has a different, I would say, also angles and side effects, right? So for example, I'll give you a very practical example that we had in our one of the portfolio companies. A project founder came and said, listen, guys, we're struggling, right? Bear market, we cannot redefine our business model. We are not making money, right? So we're trying to do everything we can, but it's tough, right? So what would you advise? How would you actually go into the, into the nitty-gritty and like into the, maybe come back to the basics, into the board and draw some hypothesis? Like what would you help? What would you say to the such funder?
Yeah, so just to make sure I understand the question, you're saying that it's a tough market and then the company is, let's say, struggling with product market fit.
Yes, correct. And
Yeah,
revenue stream.
revenue streams. Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, I think one thing is that, and this is something that we've seen before with portfolio companies, is don't don't be afraid to pivot if there is something that has high conviction. I think a lot of times, like if they're struggling with the search for product market fit, um, performing like different experiments to like quickly validate what's going on, and then like just seeing what really sticks from there, and then doubling down on that. Because I think like with early stage companies, like they're really at the pre-seed stage, seed stage, they're on the search for product market fit. And so if something doesn't work, um, then like don't hesitate to like try and pivot.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it's definitely like opportunities to pivot, and that's really it's really ability to redesign yourself even when it's tough. Now I'm curious to, we had some really positive news recently, right? Like such as, like all those Bitcoin applications, Bitcoin ETF applications, right? Like BlackRock, VanEck, Fidelity and others, like they're being really highly scrutinized, and there's high chances that we will see them like actually approved. And also obviously the Ripple legal victory, if you can call it a victory, because it's a partial victory, obviously, if we go to details. But how do you think, like those like positive, I would say bullish news will impact the market in the, nearest term?
Yeah. So I think in terms of this, so it's definitely great news on the institutional side. So having like been in both worlds, in the TradFi side of things and in more on the crypto side of things, like BNY Mellon was the like largest it is the largest custodian bank in the world. And so like when they released the news of crypto custody, I think it was 1 year or 2 years ago, that made waves. And so it's definitely a good signal on the institutional side of things. And so a lot of this is really building in the background. I think it will inspire more traditional financial institutions to continue building. And so I think that's great on the institutional side of things. On the retail side of things, it's interesting. I think it's definitely positive press as well. After what happened with Three Arrows Capital last year and FTX. So it's like for once, there's positive news. Um, on the more like crypto degen side of things, I would say that something like a Bitcoin ETF, and this is just, you know, me saying my personal opinion here, um, that that's actually a that's that's not non-custodial. It's centralized because it's not the
Yeah.
actual asset of Bitcoin. It's being held by an institution. And so, like people who are strong proponents of decentralization, they actually, I don't think they'll be happy. And so, in terms of the market, there's very different audiences, and they have these different opinions. So I just shared, one opinion of each of three.
Correct. For sure, you're right. There's definitely the I would say people who are like very radical, like the Bitcoin maxis, so to speak, right? They will definitely not be happy because it's more centralization. But people who are like in the middle, who still believe that the next bull run will be led by institutions, and billions of dollars will come from them, will obviously appreciate the derivative markets and a bigger diversification. So the last question before we jump into the audience, like, and their questions is, I mean, can you share some notable success stories? Maybe one, of startups that you received funding from your firm, and maybe some others like significant contributions to the crypto space that was done specifically by Struck.
So this one I can't claim credit for again because it was before my time. But Struck Crypto was the only pre-seed investor in Mythical Games. So Mythical Games is a company that releases different games, and so like NFL Rivals, that's one that came out pretty recently and like surpassed over 1 million downloads on the App Store for the mobile app. They recently raised a Series C round that helps the company maintain the unicorn status, so over $1 billion in um, valuation. So um, whatever everything like Adam Struck, our managing partner, like he was the one who was on the ground helping John Layton, the CEO of Mythical, across the board. And so, I mean, I don't know the specifics, but just to share exactly how we do the same formula for companies in general, um, it's really having those recurring meetings with the portfolio companies to understand what's going on with them, talking across the board. So go to market, doing introductions. So whether it be for business development or for channel partnerships or for vendors, that's everything. PR, so helping them get featured in leading publications like CoinDesk or TechCrunch. Technology, so having a technology operating partner mentor the engineering team, or product operating partner mentoring the product team. Hiring, so doing our own sourcing. So if they're looking to hire someone, we'll be able to actually find candidates, get them interested, and then send them over to the portfolio company to get them hired eventually through that interview process. So these are just examples of doing really like rolling up our sleeves to help. Just super quickly. One of our most recent portfolio companies. It's a first-time founder, so I won't name the exact company, but first-time founder, and so we guided them on like everything across company setup. I think this is where I was able to apply a lot of my operations experience in just as an early stage founder, how do you actually get your company set up um, on the legal side of things? So being able to connect them with the right lawyer and then talking through equity components, things like creating an ESOP, employee stock option pool, um, what the
Mhm.
right options exercise window is, all of that. These are like really nitty gritty things that as
Mhm.
investors we can see have impact to the company. And so we're able to provide our perspective to help the founder with more long-term thinking, to understand the ramifications of their decisions. Because they might think something's good in the short term, but like as investors, we're able to see what happens in the long term. And so we're able to provide them that insight.
Yes. I think, yeah, the benefit that you have, like bird's eye view, you already seen many typical mistakes, and then you can help just to prevent those mistakes and avoid certain risks, right? So that's a huge value add. Jumping into the questions from the audience, we like thank you for sharing your thoughts, obviously, and we just want to provide the floor to all the people like from different avenues. We have people from YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, I see. To Darth Vader, that's from YouTube, is asking, in the context of crypto investments, what are the key factors Struck Crypto considers when evaluating potential projects for funding?
Yeah, definitely. So this is looking at, I think some of these are pretty standard. So competitive analysis, go-to-market strategy, the team itself, like how strong the team is, um, what exactly is like their secret sauce and such. But one thing I would say is that we do go one step deeper in diligence. And so let's say before we write a check, we'll actually do code review. Like we'll speak with the engineers, understand their best practices, look at the code itself to really see what the product is and such. So that's just one thing that's on top of a bunch of the standard diligence areas that we look at.
And I have a consecutive question like that. Miami thing from YouTube is asking, as a community member interested in crypto investments, what advice would you give someone looking to explore the opportunities offered by VC platforms like Struck Crypto?
Yeah, I'll take my stab at this. So I think one way of getting investing experience nowadays is actually joining an investment DAO. So that's, you get experience in the DAO side of things, but then you also get experience looking at it from a community perspective and analyzing different companies. So, VCs, when they're looking at people to hire, they want people who do have that experience on the crypto side of things, being crypto native, and then also in evaluating different companies. So that's just a quick way of getting involved.
Mm-hmm. Rafael from LinkedIn asking, how does Struck Crypto ensure transparency and security for investors and projects utilizing this platform?
Yeah, so I would say that just to clarify, platform in this case is actually really like the portfolio support offerings that we provide to our portfolio companies. And so um, I think it's definitely like a two-way street. Like in terms of transparency, like we really try our best to just share like the full view about everything for the company. Because we want the founder to ultimately make like the most informed decision possible. So it's really like being there in the long term for the company because as Adam again would say, our managing partner, that we treat every investment as a marriage. Like the fund only makes a few investments per year. And so these are high conviction bets in the companies to really be there with them for the long haul.
By the way, how many investments per year are you making in total?
Right now, the goal is around like five or so investments per year.
Got it. So it's a very thorough approach. So in Peace in Mind 11 from Twitter is asking, what ways does Struck Crypto foster collaboration and networking among investors, entrepreneurs within the crypto space?
Yeah, so we do a bunch of different things. One is around events. So we hosted a side event, 200 plus person networking event at ETH Denver. We also do private dinners occasionally. So we did one in New York City recently with around 25 other like investors, founders, and operators. So a lot of the in-person gatherings, that's been great. We have our own podcast as well called Struck Crypto Unleashed that was launched just last month. And so around once per month, we'll interview a different founder or investor to just really hear their thoughts and then just gem on ideas and such. So the content creation side of things, just some examples there.
Congrats, by the way, on the launch of podcasts.
Thank
From
you.
experience, we know how hard it is. So yes. Now, I think there was a question continuation to your answer before. Nakamoto-san from YouTube is asking, so what is the minimum amount for your checks in Web3 investments? I guess it's like
Yeah,
the question be LP in a fund, right?
to be an LP in the fund itself.
Yeah.
I would say that the best way is to contact me to answer that question, and then I can answer that individually.
Got it. Okay. Now, what Moxie from YouTube is asking, what are the key challenges faced by VC platforms operating in the crypto market, and how does Struck Crypto address these challenges?
Challenges definitely, it's a tough market out there right now, and so that's why like we're just continuing with the process, continuing to add value to founders. So the existing portfolio companies, really helping them wherever we can, and at the same time on the investment side of things, staying focused as well. So we're continuing. The deal team is continuing to evaluate different deals, doing robust diligence and such, and so it's like the company's not in a rush. Like there's no like, hey, like we have to do these deals and such. It's there has to be high conviction to do the deal.
Got it. Um, there's a there's a funny question as of 40th anniversary on YouTube. If we would imagine partnership between BullPerks and Struck Crypto, how would that be? As two businessmen, please share your hypothetical insights.
Uh, yeah, I mean, we provide our portfolio companies with access to all sorts of different, let's say, partners out there. So, I mean, like BullPerks, like part of it is around a launch pad, and so definitely we provide access to our portfolio companies around launch pads there. So, we really like to provide portfolio companies with different options as well, just to show what's going on and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, on my side, I'll just add really briefly. It's definitely the low-hanging fruit is the deal flow exchange, right? And then we're also same as as Leo and Adam, like their team, like we're helping projects very early on with anything they need. So happy to collaborate on this side, like especially if we invest together in a early stage,
Exactly.
or if we go on a public round after like the guys invested. Like I think both scenarios can work pretty nicely. Um, the Darth Maul from YouTube is asking, in the context of DeFi, how does Truck Crypto contribute to the broader DeFi ecosystem and support the development of innovative DeFi projects?
Yeah. So we actually run nodes occasionally, nodes as a service. So Shardium is one of our portfolio companies. It's an Indian-based layer one protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, they're focused on the Indian market. We run a node for them. We ran a node for Algorand for a few years already as well. And so in general, like we really like to test out the products for our portfolio companies. Last example is Soul Wallet. So Soul Wallet is a smart contract wallet, still under development, but like we take a look very closely at what they're doing. Like we'll take a look at their mock-ups to really like provide feedback. We'll test out their test versions and such and give feedback as well. So um, like we don't take just a super high level view. Like we're not really just sitting back and then asking people questions and such. Like we're actually going deep, diving into the product to see what it's actually like and then sharing how we can be helpful in improving.
And just for myself, I want to just clarify because I'm not sure everyone here understands what is running a node like. Maybe you can really briefly share what it is like to actually run a node. Like,
Yeah, so running a node is really nodes are what powers a blockchain network. And so these can be computers or these can be virtual machines that are processing transactions on the blockchain. And so yeah, that's essentially what running a node is. There's different ways of doing it, but it's being an active participant in that blockchain network.
mhm. Born Ready is asking from YouTube, while choosing to work with Web3 partners and decentralized founders, how do you guys evaluate the business side?
That really ties back to the diligence areas. So looking at the team itself, like how strong is a team? Do they have a unique edge, maybe from their experiences or from their backgrounds, their connections and such? Is a team like comprised of the right people as well? Are they missing someone that's crucial? Let's say if a team is fully technical, there's no one that's really good at go-to-market. That's a big missing puzzle piece that they have to fill. Um, that's all just on the team side of things. Looking at the roadmap itself, it's like, are they really building the right features? Like, does that make sense or not? Competitors, like, how exactly are they sticking out among the playing field? Like, why exactly are they the best? Are they the most well known? Do they have the best technology and such? So those are just some of the different areas that we evaluate from the business side of things.
Yeah, and definitely, like I'm sure it takes time to evaluate, especially if they're decentralized, different parts of the world, different countries. So, do you have the mandate to actually meet them personally?
We do, yeah. In the occasion that it warrants it, something that we do a lot of times is actually meet different founders around conferences. Conferences are a great way to bring together people. Otherwise, just meeting people in New York City because that's where I'm based. That's where the crypto team is based. Definitely in-person connections help. A lot of it is like, being able to just meet someone face to face. Video is good and such. It's convenient for communication, but face to face is also helpful.
The good news, we're both in New York, so we're definitely, agreed to meet at some point, right? So, but beside that, like, to close, this podcast, like, Leo, any suggestions, any inspiration that you can share with people, maybe about the long-term horizon of the industry?
Ooh, that's a big question. Yeah, there's so much going on. Like crypto is still early. Like there's still like in mainstream adoption, right? The question is like, when will that happen? potentially, just as you mentioned, like from the Bitcoin ETF and such, the next wave could potentially come from the institutional side of things. Um, so yeah, there's always exciting developments, not just institutional, but around gaming, um, around like more consumer-facing use cases with big brands embracing crypto and such. And so, even though the market's difficult right now, people are still building. And I think like that's really what's important. Like it's the people who are in it right now, they're the ones who are committed because they're not here just because of all the positive press. Like they see something long term and then they're working to get to that future.
100%. And I really appreciate you guys, who are building. And, obviously, as you mentioned, Mythical Games is an amazing example of a portfolio company that you've been early on the early stages supported by, Struck Crypto. And I'm sure there might be other like projects like that. I wish you more unicorns. I wish you more successful founders that you will back and you will grow with them together as a firm. And yeah, hopefully we'll work together in the future. Thank you so much for your time, Leo. Thank you everyone who participated with us. And we're gonna meet right in 2 weeks at 12 p.m. EST and YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, Twitter Lives, all possible lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to be on.